Next up, Jeremy Martin, CEO of Horizonte Minerals.
Good morning. Thank you all for attending this morning. I'd like to give you a short presentation on Horizonte. We are building out two key projects. We have the Araguaia nickel project, which is a discovery that we've made. We're focused 100% in Brazil. Araguaia is one of the largest undeveloped saprolite projects out there today that's not a producing mine. We are 3/4 of the way through a feasibility study on this project. Our second asset we've recently acquired from Vale. This is their nickel cobalt project. They've spent over $200 million on this, full feasibility study complete, and we acquired this asset in January this year. So we now have two tier 1 assets all within the same trucking distance with each other. We've got over 2.5 million tons of nickel in the ground and over 100,000 tons of cobalt. I'm not going to spend too long because there is a nickel section coming up after this. I think there's a couple of few key takeaways here. Of the 2.3 million tons of nickel produced this year, around 70% of that goes into the stainless steel market. So obviously we've had a big focus on the EV battery sector. And you can see today batteries make up around 3% of all nickel demand. That's obviously going to grow going forwards, but the main driver for the nickel market today is stainless steel. This is just showing demand going forwards and predicted growth. Stainless demand is running at about, or growth is running at about 5% year on year. And then obviously on top of that, we've had the interest in the last 12 to 18 months in the battery space, and you'll hear more about that after this presentation. I think there's a couple of key takeaways on the nickel space. We have gone from a period where we've had 2 to 3 years of nickel trading at 15-year price lows around the $7,000 to $8,000 a ton mark. That changed midway through last year. And the reason for that was we finally saw the nickel inventories on the LME and SHFE drawn down. We saw around 150,000 tons of drawdown last year. We're going to see that this year. And we've also seen increases in supply side. And I think going forwards, the nickel space is a very interesting arena to be in. So looking at our assets in a little bit more detail, we're located up in the Pará state in northern Brazil. This is a mining district. This is the Carajás region here. All of those yellow circles are producing mines with Vale. Their new S11D iron ore project there, that is the largest standalone iron ore project in the world. So this is a mining region. It's got very good infrastructure. You've got tarred highways, hydroelectric power, and rail. Our Vermelho asset is shown here, right in the heart of Carajás. And then this is the Araguaia district. It's about 60 kilometers north to south. Araguaia south is where the plant will be. And then we've got another cluster of deposits in Araguaia north. But everything within this region is within integrated trucking distance of each other. Looking at our mineral inventory, at Araguaia, we've got 120 million tons of measured and indicated, grading around 1.3% nickel. And then at Vermelho, there's around 85 million tons at the same sort of grade. So broadly 200 million tons. And there's about another 100 million tons of resource that we haven't yet brought into compliant category. So this is our journey from initial formation of the company, discovery by Horizonte in 2012, acquisition from Teck in 2014. Then we acquired the northern part of the district from Glencore. Glencore had spent $70 million on this project. It was going to be a standalone 40,000 ton a year nickel operation. And then this year we've acquired the Vermelho project from Vale. So it's been a combination of discovery and acquisition at the bottom end of the nickel market. Moving on to Araguaia, this was our trial mining campaign. This is about 200 meters by 200 meters. We ran that from June till August last year as part of the feasibility study, really to confirm that what the mine schedule was showing you could actually take out of the ground. So in terms of Araguaia, it is a high-grade, scalable saprolite resource. We've done full-scale piloting, so we could produce high-grade ferronickel that we know is amenable to the stainless market. It's midway through a feasibility study, and it will be fully permitted by the end of the year. We're using a number of leading international groups on the feasibility study, names there you will know, and also a number of groups in Brazil. So this will be a robust study that you can go on and implement. Just to compare how the Araguaia reserve compares to what's producing globally, of that 120 million tons of resource, we converted a reserve of 24 million tons, grading 1.7% nickel. That actually gives us a 30-year mine life. So this is closer to a 50 to 100-year mine, or you can double capacity. The first 10 years will be grading over 2% nickel. This is Anglo American's operation in Brazil, identical resource, identical flow sheet, and you can see their grade is down at 1.4. And every 0.1% increase in nickel is 50 million on the NPV. Rotary kiln electric furnace technology. This is a 60-year-old process. There are 35 mines using it around the world. And if you looked at any one of those operations, they would have the same flow sheet. So this has been banked, and there is low technological risk associated with what we're doing here. That's the product. Ferronickel pellets. They're about a sort of an inch in size. They contain 30% nickel, and the balance is refined iron, and that is fed directly into the stainless steel mills. Low impurity, and it goes out either in bulk bags or 1 ton in bulk in containers. Infrastructure is good. This is the main Carajás region. This is the port of Vila do Conde. You can see here the photo on the right-hand side. This handles 20 million tons of thermal coal a year, and it takes all of the nickel from Vale's operation. We will be bringing thermal coal in on the existing Trans-Am highway, and then backhauling the ferronickel product out. Our local town of Conceição do Araguaia is 40,000 people. So globally speaking, the infrastructure in this region is extremely good. Permitting, we obtained our a preliminary license 18 months ago, which is effectively approval of your SEIA. We're now at this stage here, where we filed for our construction license last year. We got our water permit last week, and the aim is that we're fully permitted for construction by Q1 2019. These are the inputs for the feasibility study. As I say, we're 70 to 80% of the way through the feasibility study, and we aim to deliver that in August this year. That's just showing the project economics. We used a long-term price of $12,000 a ton nickel. It's $14,000 today, and you can see there that it gives a sort of a mid-20s IRR, and it pays itself back in under 4 years and generates over $1 billion of free cash flow over life of mine. So this is a very significant asset. We then move on to our new acquisition, the Vermelho project. You can see the 2 deposits there, V1 and V2. This project was taken all the way through to full feasibility study by Vale. It's had over $200 million spent on it. There's 150,000 meters of drilling, drilled down to 40-meter centers. The Vale resource was using a much lower cutoff than we've used, so they used a 0.4 cutoff, and it gave them 245 million tons, grading 0.8% nickel. There's also some very interesting high-grade saprolite zones in that, 18 meters at 3.3% nickel, and there are big zones of saprolite that were never really explored by Vale because they weren't looking for the saprolite mineralization. But we see this potentially as a high-grade feed for the Araguaia plant, which we haven't yet modeled into the cash flow scenario. This is still on the Vale website. It was given the construction decision in 2005, and they were going to spend $1.2 billion building a 45,000 ton a year HPAL operation. Just to show, I mean, you've seen lots of these graphs. This is just to show you where Vermelho sits. Here we're looking at contained nickel. This is one of the largest resources out there today, and then if you want to look at grade, it would sit somewhere up here. So in either metric, grade or tons, it's a leader in its class. Work completed. We've just acquired the asset. We're going to put a new resource out in May. We'll be doing test work mid part of the year to demonstrate that the hydroxide can be upgraded to nickel and cobalt sulfate for use in the EV market. And then in Q4, we'll be putting an economic study around the project. Just to see how we compare with our peer group, Cleantech in Australia, Australian Mines is here today. Both of these assets have 500,000 tons of contained nickel. Vermelho's got 1 million tons of contained nickel. In the new resource, you'll see that number up towards 100,000 tons. You look at the grades as well. This is 1.22% nickel versus 0.5 and 0.58. So this is a very high quality asset. So just to conclude, Horizonte today is a pure nickel play company. We have over 2.5 million tons of nickel in the ground. We have a robust economic study on Araguaia. Araguaia will be fully permitted by the end of the year, ready to go into construction in 2019, and that will produce first metal in Q1 2021 to go into the ferronickel and stainless market. And then mine number 2 will be Vermelho to produce nickel and cobalt for the EV space. So we have a very robust pipeline going forwards, and there's our development timeline. A few stats about the company. We're dual listed. We're listed in London and on the TSX in Canada. We've got some strong shareholders. We've got Teck and Glencore as majority shareholders, and then we've got some good institutional names from both London and Canada. Market cap today is around 65 million sterling, so close to 100 million Canadian. We're fully funded for the next 12 months, and our focus is to become one of the lowest cost next generation nickel producers. Thank you very much.